Sword Art Online Alicization Lycoris's first paid DLC, Myosotis aka Blooming of Forget-Me-Not, is coming out on November 2nd, and with that I imagine a lot of players who are just in it for the main game stuff and story will be returning to experience that story. Some of you returned for the incremental updates aka free Ancient Apostles story updates, some of you didn't and were waiting for the main content drop instead. So I figured, this was a good chance to make an Alicization Lycoris returning player's guide for casuals to get you back up to speed to all the changes we had over the numerous updates, as well as, get you prepared for the challenge ahead. Some of these will be optional, some of these you have likely already done depending on your involvement with the incremental updates, so feel free to use the timestamps and chapters to skip ahead if something no longer applies to you. First things first, if you are among the early leavers right after finishing the main campaign thinking you were done, you have a true ending to complete first. The game always had two different endings, and the requirements for the true ending were so strict that only one person in the entire world had achieved it in a long period of time, so the developers lowered the requirements if not completely removed them. Now, if you already finished the game once, you can initiate that final sequence again, and at the end, Kernel will offer you a choice to take an alternate path. The first portions of it is the same as the bad ending, but it diverges completely soon enough to give you the completely different true ending of the main campaign. Secondly, still continuing on the story aspect, the game has received 4 story updates throughout the months under the title Ancient Apostles. These are basically very character focused 1 to 2 hour long stories that you can access after having cleared the game. The first one is focusing on Shinon, second one on Tiza and Eugeo, third one on Selka and Alice, and the fourth one on Shilika specifically. They are technically not directly connected to each other as they are quite the standalone experiences. They are still somewhat sequential, so you need to complete one to start up the next one. These will also unlock new raids and provide new gear acquisition opportunities, but we'll talk about that in a bit. As part of this story aspect, we also got a new kind of a story arc building up around the Sword Art Online Gameverse characters slowly joining Alicization Lycoris. Stre and Philia have been introduced so far, so you'll likely want to do their stories too to be able to add them to your party. If you're curious about what's happening on that front, we have translated the entire prequel story for this new kinda arc thing that's going on that was released as part of the Lycoris Collector's Edition as a Japan exclusive bonus. That will give you a good background on how they are coming into the game. Now, our third main point, you should probably level up a bit. And the moment you should start doing this will depend on the Ancient Apostles chapters mentioned earlier too. Throughout the updates, the max level has been incrementally increased from 50 to 100, and thus individual Ancient Apostles chapters have roughly 10 level bumps each in regards to enemy difficulty. If you have never bothered with anything outside of the main campaign, these will eventually force you to grind XP quite early on, and that should be quite alarming for you if that's the case, as Myosotis will likely carry on the level curve even further. So if you want to be ready for the new story, you should at least be in a position where you can reasonably clear the 4th Ancient Apostles chapter featuring Shilika with ease. Now, I know leveling up can be quite tedious at times, but the best way to do it is to just stack up on all the XP buffs you can find for starters. There are items out there that give you more XP, battle skills that give you more XP, buffs from the cube that give you more XP, as well as even certain food, if I remember correctly, that gives you more XP. What you want to do is just stack as many of them as possible, and then you'll want to find a location where the mobs, not bosses, specifically normal mobs, are around 5 to 10 levels above you, or if you can handle it, even higher. If you are above level 50 and thus nothing in normal maps are high enough level, you may want to check Ancient Apostles maps. Alternatively, you can also increase the game difficulty inside your tent at the desk, which will give the enemies a nice level bump and potentially increase material drops too, probably, not exactly sure on that. If you want to combine level grinding with the raid grind I will talk about shortly, you may want to utilize the Ancient Apostles raids for level grinding too. Some bosses have breakable parts that regenerate, that give XP, whereas some of them spawn enemies that you can kill during the course of the fight for XP too, while also farming specific weapons or accessories in the same process. Again, I will talk about that gear acquisition in a bit in more detail. But of course, another factor in that power equation that's going on is of course your equipment. Your time will be a lot harder if you're still using that Night Sky sword that's not even a +5 with a Mirai sword +3 or +2 for dual blades with funny accessories and armor. You don't need to become a hardcore player and switch to the most optimal setup and build or anything. Just keep playing with what you find fun personally, of course. But you do need better gear at this point, and you have a couple of options. Weapon and armor enhancement is the first option here. Throughout the updates, the weapon enhancement cap has been increased steadily by about 2 dozens. You likely won't reach the cap without no-lifing the shit out of this game, so don't bother going that far. But you should try to aim for something along the range of, I don't know, +10 or +15. The materials for beyond +5 drop from mutated beasts available at the raid monument at Centauria, but do be careful, they rotate daily and drop materials for different weapon types and armor. All of them are available on Sundays, so that's likely the best day for you to try a grind. Black shards are used for one-handed and two-handed swords as well as katanas, red shards are used for rapiers, daggers and maces, white shards are used for armor, and blue shards are used for spears, bows and whips, so plan your entries accordingly. But the reality of the matter is, you'll only make it so far with your +10 Night Sky sword when you need to jump to the next level of materials for a more efficient grind as well as for larger shards for further upgrades. At this point, you desperately need a new weapon. The fact of the matter is, the canon weapons are simply not adequate. They will carry you through story if they're enhanced enough or if you grind enough levels, but there's a chance that it will not be a happy time for you. The good thing is, unlike the earlier days of the game where you were locked at level 50 when entering raids that featured level 80 or level 90 bosses, putting you at a significant disadvantage, you can now level up beyond them to turn the tables, making these raids and thus their coveted weapons a lot more approachable for everyone. The bare minimum you should be aiming for, and what I recommend for casual players, is to simply obtain their weapon type of choice for their own character through normal raids, which features a base set, and not bother with extreme raids at all for higher quality weapons. The normal raid weapons will be enough of an upgrade for your character to pull you through everything the game may throw your way in the course of the story. However, should you so please, you can of course grind multiple copies of the same weapon as well as other weapon types to give to your AI partners to empower them too. And if you really want to take it up a notch, you can attempt extreme raids. However, the downside of it is that it does not have targeted drops from specific bosses, so you're much more at the mercy of RNG. Normal raids have the weapons scattered across specific raids, so targeting a specific weapon type or a specific drop, it's just much easier than extreme raids. Your weapon choices are as follows from individual raids. Lost Paradise drops whip, one-handed sword, bow and two-handed sword. Beast Snare Grotto drops two-handed sword, katana, whip and bow. Spire of Eternity Research drops mace, one-handed sword, dagger and rapier. Silent Ice Goal drops mace, katana, dagger and rapier. Normal raid spear can drop from all the bosses if you want a spear build. It was one of the new weapon types introduced in one of the updates. All weapon types are listed twice if you realized, and that's because there are 2 different weapons for each type available from different raids in the base modes. As a casual player, I don't think you should bother with the differences of each thing, but if you feel like you absolutely must, otherwise you're missing out, I will link a very helpful Steam community guide in the description written by Drop Your Fantasy. Jump over to the raid section and read up on their individual roles and perks if you want to. Admittedly, if you just want to have a better time in the story, none of that matters for you. Any base raid variant will be enough. You get armor and accessories from objectives, chests and mini bosses within these raids as well. I'll also link some very helpful raid guides by Scarespore in the description, because unlike normal missions, raids don't feature a map and don't exactly tell you what to do, so you may feel lost or intimidated when you first jump in. Just have a look at the guide, don't worry, there's nothing really confusing after all. I also mentioned extreme raids, which are basically higher level versions of the same raid that drop another set of weapons. As mentioned, the drops are completely random, so everything drops from every raid. While I recommend just chilling with base raid weapons, if you feel like the extreme raid is a must, which I don't feel like it is, just do the North raid since it has the lowest level requirement and will give you the least amount of trouble. but it will still cause you issues, especially if you don't have base raid weapons enhanced to a certain level, etc., and will likely not be worth the effort in the end unless you have someone carry you. And of course, Ancient Apostles also brought in new bosses under the name quote-unquote raids, which basically is just the story boss, not an actual raid really. You can fight these bosses again and again to receive copies of the divine weapon for the specific character, so Reaper for Shinon's bow, Dullahan for Tisa's sword, Ilfang for Alice's sword, and Gleam Eyes for Shilka's dagger. They are good upgrades to the base swords of these characters and come with unique finishers, but they are locked to those characters alone, so if you don't have them as your party members, you may want to skip that grind. They also drop quite a decent accessories that are not character locked, so at the very least, that may be a good thing to look at. If you do want to grind for weapons or accessories, each time you defeat an Ancient Apostle boss, their level will go up by 1, and the higher level of the boss, the better rolls it will drop on those items. So if you feel like having fun, you may just try to see how far you can go and reap the better rewards in the process. But that is pretty much it in terms of a guide for a casual player. Unless you'll be in it for the post-game content after playing through the paid DLC, you'll likely not need anything else than these basics. Heck, chances are, depending on what kind of a difficulty curve we receive in the paid DLC, just leveling up to the cap may even be enough without the need of new weapons, so for that we just need to wait and see. Of course, I'll share an extensive Ultimate review after I play through the DLC to inform you on how the situation is with the said DLC, but at this moment, just reaching the cap and clearing the stories you haven't already is the solid advice to take away here, whereas equipment grinding is more on the level of it'd probably be good if you did it, but it's not entirely necessary. Either way, subscribe and hit the bell icon for more in-depth SAO coverage, become a channel member to get access to a special badge and exclusive emotes to use, follow me on Twitter and Facebook for faster news, plenty of beautiful merch available on my Spring page, with special discounts available for channel members and patrons, who I salute for supporting my channel directly. Until next time, keep your head